Some may say that you have been receiving messages just fine. So, what kind of messages did they receive? God's workers are born onto this world with a specific type of environment. Some are born with spiritual powers, and some are born with material resources. These resources and powers are like a credit limit of credit cards that we use. When Hongikingan are born onto this land, we come with power from grand nature. But there is a limit to the amount of power we are born with. We live utilizing this power and resources. People use this power and resources for the purpose of building a group, a specific type of environment, forming relationships with many people, building credibility, or making money. You gain these things by utilizing the power and resources like using a credit on a credit card. This credit is given to you when you are born. Who you will meet in this life is predetermined. So these good environments and relationships come to you until the credit limit has been reached. After you have used up all your credit, you should be in a good environment. So after having used up all your credit, you try to use the credit again out of habit. But there is no more credit left. You have maxed out on your credit limit. Because you have no more credit, things don't go your way as it did before. Think about how you lived in the past. You did pretty well when you were young. You were born with intelligence. Some people were born with supernatural powers. Some were born with good talents. And so everybody lived using this credit and accomplished up to now. The question now is, what are you going to do with the accomplishments? You can only manage the accomplishments if you have the knowledge. What happens if you can't manage your accomplishments? It will be taken from you. This is the reason why big corporations fail. This is also the same principle why some families are seemingly doing well but end up failing. People's physical beauty is also due to having credit from God. You should have used this credit to help you grow and develop. If you spend all the credit but don't grow and develop your soul, then you have a lot of accomplishments and have met many people, but in the end, all the good people in your life will leave you. When you run out of credit, people leave you. If you don't have the ability, then good people around you will not stay. No one has taught you all the reasons why people are facing difficulties. This is what I see. It is time to know these things. We need to ask ourselves what kind of gift God gave us. We need to know why we have to be thankful for the relationship we have with the person in front of us. What lessons do we need to learn from this relationship? We have to realize that we can't move forward unless we equip ourselves with the energy gained from these relationships. We have to understand God's teaching correctly. If you follow the teachings of a certain organization blindly, then you will end up with a depleted credit limit. You don't receive blessings and graces anymore. Why? You should have developed yourself utilizing the credit and be able to benefit the people you meet. Then you would be living a virtuous life receiving power from heaven. But alas, you did not study this principle. That is why people with spiritual power are still living with hardship nowadays. No matter how high is your spiritual power, it should be used for the person standing in front of you. Spiritual power comes down from heaven so that you would use well for humanity and for other people. Spiritual power was not given to you so that you would look good to God. It wasn't given to you to have a good time playing with that ability and just die in the end. To develop and grow just one spiritual worker, there are countless people in the world who sacrifice through blood, sweat, and toil. If you studied and gained knowledge as well as equipping yourself with spiritual power through the hard work of common people in society, then your life should be dedicated to the well-being of these commoners. You should have returned your gratitude back to them. However, you have been selfish. That is why humanity is not able to advance and is stopped. It is actually declining. It is time for us to study these things. Righteous study, study about who we are. We have to study who God is. We need to know God, whom we are supposedly communicating with and receiving messages from. We need to know why we are receiving these messages and why we are able to have these communications. There are all kinds of spiritual messages. There are many messages, and depending on the lineage, they are different. How are we going to organize these messages, and how are we going to utilize them? This is more important, not the number of messages received. Even if you receive just one message, it is important to correctly interpret this one message and utilize it for greater benefit to many people. This is the way of a wise person. To do this, we have to understand nature, and that is why I have come out to teach this. Does this make some sense?